notion of globalisation create more problems than it solves? And what are these problems?
Completely. Well, one of the things, going back to history, of course, I can't remember who said it, but they said that one of the most evil inventions of the 19th century was the creation of the nation state.
Right.
Nationalism really wasn't a thing, and I'm not talking about Irish nationalism. I'm talking about nationalism as in that wasn't really a thing outside of France before the 1860s, and certainly maybe the 1840s.
Right.
Green didn't really exist, for instance, as a colour that was associated with Ireland on a flag before the 1840s.
Right.
The traditional colour associated with Ireland and St. Patrick was actually a light shade of blue. And all of this stuff in post-Enlightenment Europe, nationalism grew, nation states started getting created. So for instance, of course, in 1870, a whole load of different unique states came together as a union to form what we know as Germany. Similarly, in 1870 or thereabouts, a whole load of separate, unique individual states came together to form what we now know as Italy.
Right.
At that time, Ireland is part, of course, of the United Kingdom, but come 1922, this state of Ireland that we now live in was created, not based on any historical precedent, because, of course, before British conquest and all of that, one state Ireland didn't exist. Ireland was a whole load of different regions, different kingdoms, run by different people who, at the end of the day, maybe were under the authority or governance of a high king, but we were ultimately a union of kingdoms. That's where, and so Ireland was created out of the 19th century idea of the nation state.
Right.
Somewhere in the 20th century, after these nation states started manning up against one another in a peeing against the wall to see who could go higher and longer, France and Germany, finally, we culminate with the Second World War. Nobody has an appetite for anything like that again. And the European Union gets created, which is ultimately a following on of what had happened in the 19th century of these states. We're now creating one large state of Europe. We're also seeing China, the massive entity it is. There's the United States in America, which of course was a nationalism that appeared 100 years previous, even before the French Revolution. But we can't get it out of our heads. And we don't have people in government that can think that there possibly is another way other than constantly creating greater and bigger unions of states.
So
that's not going to change, and I don't think it should change. What we have works, but we should always be thinking of what else could work, rather than just saying, oh, well, look, it's better the devil you know than the devil you don't know, and hiding away in, well, this is what we're used to and it's better than change.
So what do we lose through membership of the EU in terms of our own nationalism and our own sense of identity? What do we lose on a more global sense in this whole notion of one world government, one world, this notion of globalisation?
I think we lose, ultimately, the individual loses a sense of themselves. So I'm a confident person that cares what people think of me, but I'm not governed and guided by other people's opinions of me. And part of that is because I am very, very lucky and privileged to know my ancestry going back a long, long time. My family have lived at a place called Kent's Park in County Roscommon since 1641. And the sense of belonging to that. Ultimately, just talk about the Irish, we're a people who have a unique relationship across Europe with the land.
Yes.
And in the last 2 generations, with people moving all, which is a good thing and a natural thing, people have lost their identity of who they are in terms of it's a subconscious thing that we can't really put into words. And ultimately, my identity now, I realize the land thing and belonging to a particular area isn't so much important, because my identity is in Christ. God created me. I'm made in the image of God. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and he is happy with his creation. And I think, okay, well, if I am made like that in God, why should I be going in having absolutely tormenting myself in my mind because that person doesn't like me and I should change to make them like me more. I am who I am. My life circumstances have molded my personality and my character. And I think we're in a sense, because people who are so obsessed with what other people think, look what she's wearing, I need to get that.
Yes.
Or this, that, and the other, I'm not good enough to be friends with you, or you're not good, more dangerously, you're not good enough to be friends with us.
The perceptions, yeah.
All of those conceptions, misconceptions, and preconceptions that we have are actually the things that separate us and make us all uncertain, give us this sense of loss inside, whereas in actual fact, we're called to be people who are completely happy and content within ourselves, within our next circle of community and within society. But if people are not content within themselves, how can a community be content within itself, go greater than that? How can a society be content within itself and go next? How can we be content in our relationship with our neighbours next door? How can we be content in our relationship with the rest of the European Union, with the United States of America, and so on and so on and so on?
But has to start from within.
It comes back to the individual. And the danger of globalisation, perhaps to sum it up, is that it's not about the individual, it's about the group. But the group means that we're a group of like-minded individuals.
So there's a lot of personality.
And we might be like-minded, but at the end of the day, we're all completely unique. And I think the great lie and the great steal that has happened in the last 40 years in Ireland and the world is that people have lost the sense that they are unique, that they're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that they need nobody but themselves for their self-worth.